Hey guys, just want to share a tip to help you really capitalize on your recruitment effort for your web people. This has happened to me. This happens to me probably, I don't know, once a week, where I'll get a email or a request from someone who's looking for a quote on something, but what they're asking for is they're asking for it in the wrong way. So, for example, last week I got a call from a guy and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for help with this particular functionality." And he's like, "I can't find anybody who's trained in this particular tool." And I said, "Well, I think what you're looking for is not what you're calling it, but it's actually called this." And he was like, no. He's like, "I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking for. I'm having the hardest time finding a developer who has experience doing this." And I said to him, I'm like, "I don't think that what you're describing is actually a thing. Like, I've been doing this for a long time and I've never ever heard of that particular tool. I've never heard of it." And so I got offline from talking to him and I went and did a Google search and I was trying to type in what the name of what he was describing, this functionality, this tool that did this particular thing. And I was trying to research it and it came up with, okay, what he was describing is exactly what I was describing, but in a different terminology, right? So I knew the quote unquote industry term for it. And so he was shopping and breaking his head shopping for someone who did this thing that wasn't even a thing, right? So I know that I'm giving tons of vague circumstances. I just don't want to embarrass the guy in case he sees this video. And it happened again this morning. I got an email from this woman and she's like, "Hey, I'm looking for someone who can help me set up an integration with this." And I was like, that doesn't integrate with that. That's a completely separate system. Like, these two things do not go together. And she was having such a hard time finding someone who would be able to do this and do this. And she said to me, she's like, "If you can do it, you can have the job." And I said, "Well, what you're describing isn't even a thing. Like, it can't be done. Like, these technologies do not go together. Like, these technologies do not have the capacity to integrate." So my tip to you is, as you're interviewing web people or marketers or something, if you're not 100% sure about your job post, what you're asking, do yourself a favor and figure it out. Because if you're spending, like this guy I was like the 10th person he'd talked to. This guy, the first guy. And I replied back to him, I'm like, "Just so you know, as you're going forward in your marketing, in your interviewing, this is actually the same thing. Like, what I called it is actually the term that developers use for what you're looking for." And I sent him a link and a screenshot and he was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But it took him like 10 phone calls for someone to tell him, like, what you're looking for, it's not possible. Like, it's not a thing. So don't waste your time. If you're not sure, another way I tell people is like, okay, before you write your job post, if you're not a technical person, before you write your job post, get a technical person to review it to make sure that it does make sense to the people who are going to be reading it. Because if we read a job post or like a letter or an email or an RFP or an ad or something, and we're like, that doesn't make sense, in most cases, we're not going to ask questions. We're just going to pass. We're just going to say, okay, this person obviously doesn't know what they're doing. So take the time. You're going to, when you do your due diligence and figure out exactly what you're looking for, you're going to attract the highest quality applicants. So if you're not sure, get sure. And if you do a couple calls and the people are like, "I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. I don't know." And these people who are experienced, maybe don't question whether they can do it. Maybe stop and question, are you asking the right way? Because you might be really, really close, right? You might be really close, but the way you're asking for it, your language or your jargon, might just not be the right words that we're going to understand. And so we're just going to kind of step away, right? Take the time, get educated, figure out what you need, figure out what you want, make sure it makes sense, have it vetted by a web person, tech person who knows the language, so that when people apply, they're clear, and because you're going to be working in circles. If you're asking the wrong questions, you're going to be working in circles and never finding the person who could very well have the skills, but you don't know that what they have is what you need. So take the time, get educated. Even if you're not a tech person, just understand the basics of what you're looking for And you're just going to find it's going to go so much smoother when working with web people. You'll both be talking about the same thing. I'll talk to you later.